today's lesson is going to be themes and art, which is an intro into concepts. So this is mainly geared towards Art 2. As we start in Art 2, it's basically time to move on from technical foundations into more thematic and conceptual processes. You've had your foundational courses, so now it's time to take what you've learned in those courses and apply it to creating artwork based on ideas rather than learning processes. So this is basically where a lot of your personal art style and artistic voice can start to be really developed. In this class, you have a choice of preferred media. That means that if you prefer drawing over painting, then you can create the work as a drawing. You don't have to paint it. You don't have to draw if you don't like drawing. You don't have to paint if you don't like painting. You pick your medium, basically. But that also means each student may have a different media to express the same general theme. Every single we will have a theme for each project, and you will need to kind of create artwork based around those. So that involves doing some research and creating thumbnails and planning out your artwork, which is very important as you go along in your artistic education journey. So first, we're going to talk about actual themes itself. Now, you have to learn to walk before we can run. So we're going to have, like I said, we're going to have a theme for each project. I've outlined the themes in our syllabus. Your task is to create thumbnails surrounding that theme and then a final product based on that refined thumbnail. That's an important thing. You'll make thumbnails, but you really need to pick one and refine it a little bit more, add a little bit more details, figure out the color scheme, things like that. This will allow you to have the skills prepared for Art 3 or even AP Art and Design classes for when you are independently creating concepts. In those courses, you're basically released on your own. But on this one, we're getting started to learn how to actually work with themes. Working in themes basically will also allow you to explore topics you may have not thought about before. This will broaden your horizons and let you figure out what you're really interested in. I really love working in series and working with themes because it lets my art go a little bit more deeper than just coming up with a really pretty image. It really gives you an idea how to work around something. So, my expectations working with themes. So, bare minimum work is not going to earn A's in this class. I'm not going to be accepting just something scribbled down and turned in. If you are enrolled in Art 2, that means you chose to be in this class. You did not get dumped into Art 2. You chose to be in it. So I'm going to be grading you based on a standard rubric. Everybody's going to get this kind of the same rubric of my expectations for it. And basically around the thumbnails you create. Your thumbnails are required. I will deduct points if you choose not to do the thumbnails, because that tells me that you're not willing to put in the effort or the work. So I expect thought and research to go into your thumbnails and artwork. You have to think about it. You have to do some research on it. It's not just throwing out an idea and just rolling with that first thought that you have. Sometimes the first thought is a really good one, but then you need to really make it your own as well, and you really need to refine it. It's just, right at that point, it's just an idea. It's not a fully fledged theme or concept. So this lets you add your own flair to your work, and it'll exercise your creativity. You are expected to experiment and take risks with your work as well. If your risks do not work out and the work looks terrible, that's not exactly going to be a failing point. If I see that you took a risk and experimented, that will kind of make up for if your work doesn't look as good. That will help it, because I would rather see you experimenting and taking risks than just producing the same old artwork and same old quality every single time. We're not working on consistency here yet. We're working on getting the themes and experimentation down still. So I really like, you will also reflect on the work and see what worked and what didn't. So that will be a regular part of this class as well. You will do some self-reflection on your work. We'll start kind of talking about artist statements, and we'll be doing kind of critiques where we critique each other's work, and you'll critique your own work. And I will not throw you in there cold turkey. You know, you'll know what that means and what that consists of before we go and do the first critiques. So, but expect to have it done. But expect to have your work critiqued and yourself. But it's not going to be a scary situation. I promise you that. Okay, plagiarism. Ooh, we know this one. This is a problem that's been rampant in art class, in my art classes and many art classes across this country, and that is plagiarism. It's not just in English classes. So copying another artist's work is unethical and lazy. In all technicality, it's also illegal because it violates federal copyright law. I used to know the exact specifics of what that entailed. I believe up to $250,000 in fine and a 5-year stay in a federal prison. I think that's what I remember correctly. Not to mention whatever the artist sues you for if you get caught. So, to put it simple, I understand you're going to have trouble understanding the difference between references and plagiarism. I will make sure that's clarified. But if a student is found to have plagiarized their work by copying another artist's work, my policy is as follows. And I spoke with Miss Wilkinson, and I tried to make it very similar to her own policies. So if you forget what I'm going to do, think about what Miss Wilkinson would do to you. So if exactly copied, I mean traced or just worked perfectly from to where it's exactly the same as the reference and nothing has changed, there's been no additional add-ons, there's been nothing, it's just like basically like you took that and put it on a photo print, I put it on a copier and made a copy of it, I'm gonna give you a 0 for the grade and a write-up because it's unethical. It's versus the plagiarism policy. It's cheating, basically. If your work is similar or unintentional plagiarism, which can happen, I've seen kids that haven't done the work enough to do enough alterations to it. That's fine. You just have to be willing to work even further on it to make the work your own. That's the big thing, is you have to make the work your own. If I say, hey, this is looking way too much like your reference image, you need to start making some changes. Now, if you refuse to alter your work, you're going to get a 0 and a write-up for intentional plagiarism. At that point, you know it is plagiarism. And if you don't go any further than that, you purposefully plagiarized. So that's why you receive the 0 in the write-up. Remember, this is the same policy as Miss Wilkinson for when they're doing her papers. If you refuse to do it, you're going to have to deal with the consequences of it. It's your choice here. It is not that hard to really change up everything and make it your own. You can do this. Okay. Now, this has been a problem in the past, and it's not going to be a problem this year. Artwork has a specific due date for critiques. I have to make sure that if we're doing critiques, which will be the most beneficial to y'all, that it is set. Artwork will have specific dates. You will have a set amount of time. Any work that is incomplete will be scored based around the amount of student effort put into that work. If you have an amazing piece of artwork and you're just not done by critiques, and you've put in a ton of effort working every day, I'm not gonna you know, penalize you for that. I would rather see you do that than slack off the entire time. You slack off the entire time, I'm not going to have any sympathy. So, each student is expected to take the full assignment time to work on their pieces by adding details and values. That means if I give you a week, I expect every single day of that week you to be working on it. If you are working in photography, you are expected to edit your images in Photoshop. I will be making sure you have plenty of resources and show you how to use Photoshop properly. I've set up a digital art center in my room that you could sit at and edit your photographs and get them printed. They will all be printed. We're not leaving photographs on the computer screen. They're going to be printed. So if you are a virtual student, meaning that you're working at home, you're in part of T-Bird Virtual Academy, I'm going to be looking for a Photoshop alternative for you, something that you could work with at home, some kind of free thing, because if you don't have access to Photoshop, some parents do have Photoshop at home and they can let you, and you'll be able to do it, or you really want to do this and you are paying for your own Photoshop subscription, which is about $10 to $14 a month, and that gets you Photoshop and Lightroom. If you choose to do that, that's fine. If you can't do that, I will try and find something for you to be able to do and for you to be able to use. So, students who are working in ceramics, if you're ceramics and sculpture, things like that. Mainly ceramics, because you're going to be graded on the project at what stage it is at the time of critiques. Ceramics, because it's a very time-heavy art form, you can't expect a clay piece to be fired and glazed in a very, very short amount of time if I'm wanting you to get as much detail and a good quality of work on it. So wherever it is at the time of work, at the time of critiques, that's what we'll critique on so far. Then you'll move on to the next one. We'll let that one dry out. And of course, we'll get it fired. You'll go back to it and glaze it. And we'll fire it again. I do expect ceramic pieces, every single one of your ceramic pieces, if you work in ceramics, to be finished by the end of the semester. You're not just going to let them kind of just sit there. They are going to be finished by the end of the semester. Now, basically right here, I really want to say this. If you put in the work and effort, you will grow exponentially as an artist during this course. That's the big thing about this, is while we're working in themes, I'm going to provide you with a theme, and then you really need to exercise your creativity, and I will make sure everything is provided that you need. I will make sure guidance is offered. So, but you have to take that on. You put in the work and effort, you will grow a lot during this course. And you'll be super ready for Art 3 or even Advanced Placement Art. You have the choice between the two of them whenever that happens. Alright? I will see y'all in the next video.